Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one lined up for you today. We got updates from Ron Hammond in Congress. We're also going to take a look at why businesses may stop accepting crypto. Say it isn't so. Jeremy Hogan on why Ripple wins the fair notice defense. Hester Pierce talks to safe harbor again. And the real plan for XRP bank mass adoption. I think we're going to take a very good look at an overview of that. And we also have a sit down with Link2 and John Deaton. And that sit-down discusses many different aspects of this case currently and what's in front of us and what the outcome will be no matter what side of the gavel it comes. Let's go ahead and roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. $1.958 trillion market cap for crypto. We're up slightly this morning at 0.90%. We see Bitcoin is holding its own at 41,900 right now. Ethereum 3,100 plus. We see Solana coming in at $136 and change. Cardano's $1.16 this morning. XRP is 74 cents. The market just taking a beating and trying to hold its ground at this point. We will keep an eye on it. But look, they say this year, 2022, can be the year that we actually see some actual regulations and legislation to free the innovation of this market. I hope so. I remain positive. Right here we see 0.7047 on the low side and 0.557 on the top side right now, 74 cents. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are brought to you by Link2. And do we ever have some incredible clips for you today from an amazing sit down with Nick Burafedo and Joe Endoso from Link2 with John Deaton. And he is going to share with you some incredible insight if the SEC gets the strong hand or whether Ripple remains with the strong hand through the end of this case and when potentially it could end. Stay with us. You will see it. Private equity is where it's at. This is Link2's post yesterday to say companies are staying private longer, and they are. I played you a clip from Joe Endoso telling you about how they stay private longer before going public. And the real gains are in this area. Yes, you have to be an accredited investor, but the reality is when this market does take off at some point, I think a lot of you hearing my voice will be accredited. That's the way I see that. And I don't know about you, but I'm planning for my future. I already know what I'm doing today. So although all the markets are expensive, private equity multiples remain at a discount to public markets. They really do. And when you think about specifically products like Ripple and the case that's happening and XRP, my goodness, I mean, it really doesn't end. But if you take a look at what they've been able to do, look at the companies they have added here. Take a look at this. It's pretty remarkable, the range of products that they have on here. And I want to let you know something. Today is a massive sale going on starting today. And I'm telling you, Tuesday, January 11th, today through the end of the month, right now, they're running an incredible incentive program to encourage additional multiple investments. And I'm telling you, look, take a look at this. If you invest in a company, you will earn rewards for investing in a second, third, or fourth, fifth, and however many companies you want to invest in. Your multiple investments will be eligible for your rewards. So as long as you made them within a 24-hour period, there's no limit to how many days during the month you can take advantage of the multiple investment rewards. So invest in company, and then you invest in company 2, you get a $500. And this is all, look, listen, if you do this from your Uphold wallet, you're going to get a $500 XRP airdrop for the second company you invest in. You get a $1,000 XRP drop into your Uphold wallet if you use your XRP to purchase more private equity from a third company, and so on. And then $1,500 from a fourth and more. So this is pretty remarkable. If you don't purchase from your Uphold wallet, instead of getting the XRP, you will get dropped the second company 1,000 Link2 bucks into your account, and a third company investment will get you 2,000 Link2 bucks, and for a fourth and more companies invested in this platform, 3,000 Link2 bucks. I tell you something, This is an amazing company, everyone. I tell you, I love private equity. It is going to be a huge, huge thing for me and Mrs. Backup in the coming years because I absolutely love it. I love what I see there and the people in that space, no doubt about it. Ron Hammond, this week in Congress in crypto, besides legislation, one of the tools members of Congress use to move policy letters to regulators. These letters are important for the crypto industry given the lack of regulatory clarity, but there are several still waiting a response. I'm not going to read this whole thread to you, and shout out to Ron for all the updates, but I do want to let you know that these letters are not being answered back, and when they are, sometimes it could take up to 1 to 2 years, up to 6 months. I mean, it's pretty remarkable here, like Tom Emmer's letter back in November 3rd that he had sent out. You know, the regulators are just not engaging with Congress, and you have to ask yourself, you know, and here's an example here. There's just 2 examples, and we'd like to stress that given the importance of these letters, regulators tend to invest more time in double checking the legal implications of their responses. However, Gary Gensler does a good job sticking to what he's already been said. He's not straying from the narrative. And while all of this is happening and he's stalling or he's using these canned responses, you know, to anyone that's engaging with him, he is continuing to do a jurisdictional power grab of the crypto space. Who is going to put that back in the lane it belongs in? And do they want to? And I've asked that question many times. I don't think that they do. And take a look here. This is from James Rule XRP. Shout out to you, my friend. Written by John Reed Stark, former head of the SEC's Internet Enforcement Team. Why U.S. businesses may stop accepting cryptocurrency by 2024. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you either, but I do want you to see what is cited here. And they talk about a crypto crackdown, and U.S. government has quarterbacked 2 extraordinary regulatory initiatives, one requiring the reporting of cryptocurrency transactions to the IRS, which we know, and the other requiring reporting of cryptocurrency holdings to Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, of the U.S. Treasury. Specifically, on November 21st, or 2021, November 15th, the current administration signed an Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act infrastructure law, which in addition to launching a myriad of infrastructure-related projects, also quietly created mammoth, unprecedented reporting obligations for U.S. persons and businesses transacting in cryptocurrency. These requirements are now on the books and will apply to any IRS filings made after December 31st, 2023. You know, this is the problem here. And basically what they cite in this is that the 2 unprecedented IRS FinCEN cryptocurrency reporting requirements are game changers. And for those businesses that accept or are contemplating accepting cryptocurrencies, the choice may suddenly become clear. Don't do it. They talk about volatility, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, commission fees, cryptocurrency liquidity risk, all the things that you would imagine that they would say, right? And, you know, isn't this, and I don't know if you see it the same way, but I see this as this is the firewall to introduce a public-private relationship for a legitimate digital dollar stablecoin and or a CBDC. They're not saying you can't use your crypto for purchases, but look at the way Venmo and PayPal are structured. You can buy the cryptos, and when you go to use your crypto to spend for a dinner or whatever you decide to spend it on at that merchant, restaurant, whatever, that is converted to the dollars for that person and that merchant business accepting your transaction. They are not receiving the Bitcoin. And it looks like that is where we're going to go, right? And by 2024, you would think that they could have this wrapped up and have the on and off ramp secure enough to control this market. That's what they're doing. They're lassoing this market and really circling the wagons here. They're not going to allow it out of their realm and challenge the relevance of governments and banks. You can just bet on it. Look right here. This is Jeremy Hogan, who told us that why Ripple's fair notice defense survives the SEC's motion to strike. He cites the Kick Interactive case, and the court ruled against the Kick Interactive case here. And the fair notice defense is seen in the order below, which distinguished the Upton case. However, the adverse ruling was at summary judgment and not a motion to strike. He goes on to say here, For the Ripple court to distinguish the Upton case, it would have to refer to things outside of the lawsuit. For example, whether the SEC was inconsistent in enforcement across the industry for years, or whether the statute authorizes discriminatory enforcement. I bet the SEC doesn't want to touch that side of it. Reference to outside evidence is not proper in a motion to strike. Analysis should be limited to whether Ripple pled the defense properly. Therefore, I believe the court should not strike the fair notice defense. Now, whether the fair notice defense wins at summary judgment 100% is a different analysis. Shout out to Jeremy Hogan and thank him for that. Now, listen, with this, he does have another thing I wanted to cover here. Any settlement would have to take place between January 19th and summary judgment. My guess would be between February and April. Now, he's not saying it will end then. He's just saying if you're going to see any settlement, there would be your window to look for it in that regard. Now, with that being said, this is the one and only Joe Indoso right here from Link 2 explaining the clear difference between currency, commodity, and security. It is clear XRP is a currency. Listen to the way he breaks this down. It is remarkable. Shout out to you, Joe.
Understand that distinction as well. They understand the difference between equity and Ripple and XRP, the token, and nobody's confused that they're the same thing. And if they were the same thing, it would make no sense to us to use XRP as a currency in the way that we're doing to provide them with rewards, right? We'd simply, sell them less of the security if they were one and the same thing. But they're not. And the distinction you make, by the way, John, between the underlying token and any kind of investment contract that may be wrapped around it in any particular transaction is frankly a distinction that pervades the entire securities world today, where there are no digital assets involved. So a good example for that is then in the foreign exchange world, right, where it's characterized by the active trading of lots and lots of different currencies. The US dollar is only one of them. Those currencies are treated as commodities. If I, as an investment banker, were to take, say, a US dollar, British pound pair and construct a contract whereby the buyer of that contract gains in a certain way based on the relative movement of those two currencies within a certain period of time, and we can even band it and say within this band you get X%, outside that band you get 0 or you actually pay in, and I sell that derivative contract, right. That's a security. Yep. And nobody has any doubt about that either in that world, right? And nobody says the British pound and the US dollar are themselves securities. It's that investment contract I've constructed around it that is the security. And so in this instance, I don't understand why, if people that are securities regulators are used to seeing that distinction in the fiat world, they cannot somehow replicate that same construct and that analog in the digital asset world.
I just don't think you could have it explained any better than he just did it. I just don't think you can explain it any better. And you know what? And if we had something like Hester Peirce's safe harbor rule, which is now being worked on by many other people, like an open source project idea, right? As you can see her acknowledging here, it's great to see creative thinking on what a crypto safe harbor might look like. This version incorporates some elements of hers but it is more targeted. Open and concrete discussion can help us develop good crypto regulatory policy in the US. I just want to highlight, this section here. Hester Peirce's proposal provides a high degree of clarity in favor of cryptocurrency enthusiasts that during the relevant 3-year network maturation period, tokens will not be treated as security in any context, assuming the absence of fraud. However, to a skeptical regulator or politician, this broad carve-out runs the risk of unintended, unforeseen consequences. Listen to this part. For example, what if swaps, indexes, or traditional funds relating to these tokens are created on a pure centralized basis that implicates the securities laws? Will the SEC still be able to assert jurisdiction over such instruments? How ridiculous is that? Joe Indoso from Linkto just explained to you how basic it is. If you create an investment contract on top of these commodity currencies, then yes, you've created a contract for that. But that doesn't make the asset itself an actual security. It is a little absurd to be wrestling with some of these notions still to this day. Now, why I believe we're still wrestling with some of these notions, I have explained to you guys many, many times. I believe that the legal case is very real, and they're spending very real money in order to combat the situation and to stand their ground and to get the decision they need to move forward. But I have also said it's just as much a vetting process. And this is from Ant1, who says, let's ponder the facts for a moment here. XRP was the first cryptocurrency ever in history to be recognized as such by the U.S. Treasury's FinCEN. Absolutely right, back in 2015. It wasn't Bitcoin and it wasn't Ethereum. And he still goes on to say, this lawsuit is an audit of Ripple for the role it will play in the future on the world stage. I absolutely believe that. And to that point, shout out to An1. Here's Anders L., who has a great thread that I want to run through very quickly here for all of us that could show you exactly an overview of what is happening right before our eyes when it comes to mass adoption for Ripple, RippleNet, and eventually the use of XRP. He points out and starts here with the thread on how Tranglo may fit in the big picture for on-demand liquidity. Lots of speculation here, so warning on the front side. If you're hearing my voice, you know that you're a speculator, right? You do know this, right? So we are speculating here. None of what we talk about is financial advice. Ripple announced that they acquired 40% of Tranglo in March 29, 2021. We know that Tranglo headquarters in all these different areas, citing London, Dubai, and Singapore as well. You go on here that July 22, 2021, Tranglo themselves tweeted, we're working on something exciting that is going to transform payments in fintech. Stay tuned. And then you see here, there's an old video here that shows the video multi-hop process that allows partners on RippleNet that could act as a hub to process payments for another customer on RippleNet to avoid them having to set up a bunch of bilateral relationships. I'm not going to play it for you. You get it. I'm moving through this quickly here. Many speculated that the MoneyGram was supposed to be that on-demand liquidity payments hub on RippleNet, but as we know, since the lawsuit, the SEC, that relationship ended, and now Stellar has created a relationship with MoneyGram. Now, I believe they are likely setting up Tranglo to be such a hub outside the U.S., outside the reach of the SEC, another workaround, if you will. Since it has no office in the U.S., I believe they could work as a hub to process on-demand liquidity transfers. Again, speculation. But this is a great little video of David talking about such topics. I'm not going to play that because this brings to an old video where it made him believe that banks will go live with on the ODL in a large scale. Is this? Let me see 1 second here. I want to see if this is the proper video. It is. And you know what? I actually do want to play you this video here because this is how he believes banks will go live on ODL. Listen to this right here.
You might have a bank that doesn't want to touch a digital asset. They're like, we can't have XRP on our books, we can't buy it, we can't sell it, it's just too much of a regulatory challenge for us. But let's say they want to make a payment in Mexico and they don't want to have to pre-fund and they don't want to have to get confirmation 3 days later. What they can do is they can have an XRapid customer that probably won't be a bank. It'll be a payment company or some other type of institution that uses a digital asset to buy the Mexican pesos as an internal treasury function and then offers those Mexican pesos to the bank. So it's a workaround to the limitations that we found that we think is adapted to the situation that we're in today.
So you can see a workaround for the banks to be able to access it without actually holding it at the time, currently right now, with the lack of clarity of regulation. So they won't have to touch XRP whatsoever to get the benefits from it. Great stuff from Anders L., who also, by the way, is a paid Patreon if you want to join that as well. Listen to this.
And so that's what I expect turning the switch is going to be. It's going to be connecting banks to these other payment service providers that are already using the XRapid product and going through XRP now and increasing the volume.
So this is really interesting because that's an old interview I have from Bob Way that is really looking relevant today to what we're seeing come into place. Remember, Tranglo just announced yesterday that they've opened a new payment corridor into Hong Kong as well. So this is a tweet from Schwartz that makes more sense to him now. Take a look at this. It says none currently. XRapid is our first effort back in 2018 at settlement and is not aimed at banks. We felt the best first target was kind of low value, high volume remittance like payments we could get companies like ours, XRapid partners. So then you go on and think about also, I'll just add to that. Remember when we played Mr. Ahmed from PayPal in a congressional hearings, Cash Still King, talking about how they could use Ripple XRP for low value payments today if they had the regulatory clarity as well. So I want to go on here. So it seems this may be the plan, banks connecting to payment service providers transfers, but I also want to go on to right here where he brings up the Bob Way again. Do you believe mass liquidity, mass adoption of XRP, if only for market making, can be achieved in the current regulatory landscape? What a great question from 2019. And the answer is yes, absolutely. I don't see any current hurdles to doing so. So you can see that leans more into the idea of using ODL and other companies and market makers outside of the U.S. to facilitate this without stopping the process for regulatory clarity. Now, check this out. This is a spot right here. What's the holdup? And listen to here. There's a conversation with Mr. B back when his YouTube channel was rolling.
I asked David about Ripple's presentation to banks. I said to David, I've been in sales a very long time, and I can't imagine your sales team presenting the Ripple solution and getting to the end to explain the advantages of using XRP with on-demand liquidity and wrapping up the sales pitch with, if there's ever a bull run, we sure hope there's enough liquidity in the system and the value of XRP is high enough that you can move your large sums of money. David looked at me and said that was the biggest challenge in the presentation to financial institutions, is keeping their expectations under control on when they'd be able to use ODL for the larger transfers.
And there you have it. So it seems liquidity is the holdup for when banks will be able to use ODL. So if you're hooking all of these market makers together, you're looking to really bring these liquidity market makers and provide the liquidity to be able to eventually, bring it up to a level to use larger and larger and larger in payments going forward into the future. So this is really a great thread, what he has here. And it's just more and more evidence that we are watching, in fact, the adoption and the setting up of different hubs around the world of ODL. And here's one more here, where it shows really, if we do some heavy speculation, when we've seen Visa make a couple large purchases of RippleNet partners like Earthport and Currency Cloud, I believe that's likely these are hub processing ODL payments. Currency Cloud was shown as a key Ripple partner in January of 2021, just a year ago. You can see right here, and you can see the access around the world here. I have to say, it does look like that's what we're seeing. But with all of that being said, we still need to have this audit process, this vetting process legally and legal precedent of this asset and this protocol in order for all the money of the world to really truly begin moving across it in the manner we need to. So now, this is John Deaton sitting down with Link 2 in that same conversation and talks about if Ripple wins seeing the documents claimed by the SEC to be DPP, the deliberative process privilege or privilege process, we could see a settlement decision within 90 days. Take a quick listen here.
And say that Ripple gets that. Same thing with the Ethereum and Bitcoin documents. Or she could say, no, SEC, you've taken this position that the Hinman speech and the whole thing was a personal opinion, and therefore it's not privileged, and it turns over. Chances are, it's hard for me to imagine that the judge is going to say that all of the documents are privileged and protected. It's hard for me to imagine that she's going to say all of them are not. So it'll be interesting where she says these documents must be turned over and these other documents don't have to be. And why is it taking so long? Because she knows how significant of an issue this is. If the documents are turned over and they're really, really helpful to Ripple, I would predict a settlement within 90 days of Ripple getting the documents in their position, right? It could happen faster, it could take longer, but that's, to me, is the most important part of the case, along with the fair notice. I don't think the judge is going to strike the fair notice defense. Doesn't mean Ripple wins, but they can at least argue it. So this DPP privilege issue is the single biggest factor to me in this case. And I think that this judge, Netburn, is just crossing her T's, dotting her I's, and whoever it helps or doesn't help knows that it's going to be an issue on appeal. And therefore she's trying to make sure that she doesn't get overturned, I guess. You know what I mean?
So there you have that. Now let's take a look at the opposite side of this. What if they don't get it? If Ripple loses that the ability to see those documents that the SEC wants to keep as privileged, take a listen to this.
If the judge rules that the documents don't have to be turned over because they're privileged, I believe we're going to see a verdict. I don't believe the SEC is going to. The SEC then would have a lot of leverage, or Ripple wouldn't have a lot of leverage if they had the documents. And I can just tell you, dealing with the things behind the scenes, that you guys would be surprised at how stubborn, I guess is the word to be, the SEC is being. They're becoming emboldened that this is like a war. All the criticism that they're taking in the public and how they're getting hammered by me and other people in the community, it's almost like it's having that effect where it emboldens them, that where they're like circling the wagons and they want to like not back down. And so the only way for them to back down, in my opinion, is for Gensler to politically see that he's going to lose cryptocurrency entirely as a asset class that he can put his hands on, and therefore let's get Ripple to sign a check, right? And then brag. If he gets Ripple to pay $100 million, I'm picking a very high figure, but let's say it's $100 million. He can get up and say it's one of the largest SEC settlements in history. And look, they enforced the securities laws, and they did this, and it's a big victory for him politically.
So there you have it. So now it sounds like to me, however the DPP motion goes, whether it's in Ripple's favor or whether it's in SEC's favor, and I hope it's in Ripple's favor, but it seems like that could be the beginning of the end, either in a settlement or an almost immediate judgment. This is pretty remarkable, the moment that we are coming up on. Now, that doesn't mean either that on the day that ruling happens, that it's just over and everything goes, voila, we're done, just like that. I think there's going to be some time in between all of that. And we're going to have some more incredible clips from you from this sit down as the week unfolds. I tell you, there's just so much that come from that. I do want to say before we leave, how about Songbird? Shout out to Rob Licker for bringing this around to me, because where are the exchanges that said they were going to participate that have not given the Songbird to the XRP holders? And what are they doing with it? Why hasn't that been released to the people on the exchanges that have not released it, but yet they supposedly have it? Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know, hit that notification bell, don't miss a thing. And make sure you check out all the links in the description and comment section, ladies and gentlemen. They are great products and services that I use each and every day, but you got to click the links in order to get the specials and savings. I will catch all of you on the next one.